Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in tonight. We're here at Music Millennium in Portland, Oregon. I'm Terry Courier from Music Millennium, and I'm here to interview Curtis Salgado, who has a brand new record coming out on the 26th called Damage Control. And Curtis, I've seen you through the store hundreds, probably thousands of times over the years, sometimes promoting a new record, but most of the time as a music fan.
That's right, buying records. I'm so glad. You guys are doing all right, you were telling me.
Yeah, I mean, COVID has been really tough.
Yeah.
It's been tough for everybody in the city. You
Yes.
drive into work every day, you see businesses that are closed.
Yeah.
And I feel really blessed that we're able to be operational. Music is a great healer for people, and it's really got a lot of people through these times right now.
Definitely. It has for me. And, and now it's snowing, so damage control.
Oh, yes. Could
My
use
truck
some of
won't
that.
make it, so Terry came and got me. So I'm honored to be here, man. I'm a big fan of you and your
Great to have you here.
musicologist and a music fan. So I'm thank you for the push.
And since there's all you people from around the world here, I thought we'd go back and ask Curtis about his formative years of growing up in Eugene, Oregon, and what got you in, or who got you in to music?
It was my family. My mother and father grew up at a time when swing music was their hip hop, and swing music was the most popular music going, jazz. And my dad had a pretty good record collection of basically, he was really into keyboard players like Fats Waller, James B. Johnson, Lex Lewis, Albert Ammons. He had Boogie Woogie 78s, And I remember a 78 that just thrilled me. It was Gene Krupa, and the lead singer was Anita O'Day, and she is a great jazz singer. And he had Count Basie and with a guy named Jimmy Rushing, was Mr. 5x5 because he was about 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide. He was a great blues singer, and that's what hit my auditory nerve, man. And then I was in a crossfire between my mom and dad and their music and my brother and sister, who were listening to the contemporary music of the time. And so my brother and sister, when it was the folk era and it was coming through, they were buying all this, they were buying the Limeliners and the Kingston Trio and Peter, Paul, and Mary kind of records. And my brother, they had a wide scope of music that they liked, but they brought home, as you know this, the folk music era, Hoot Nanny on television, the folk music era. The record companies started repackaging the old blues guys. And one of the records they repackaged was Robert Johnson. And my brother brought Robert Johnson, the first one home,
Amazing piece of work.
Amazing. All right, damage control. See? That's how it is. Let's see, Robert Johnson. So I had an older brother, older sister, and my mom and dad. They were hip. And my mom and dad brought in the Count Basie, the Ray Charles, the Jimmy Lunsford, the Benny Goodman, all this. And my brother and sister were listening to, the Beatles, but Paul Butterfield got his way in there. And that first record. And that's just it. It was the only thing that really, it was the thing that tweaked my auditory nerve, that just excited me, was music. And, I struggled through school, but the one thing I didn't struggle through was music. And in kindergarten, I had a note pinned on my chest by a teacher. She said, "Don't lose this." And she pinned it on my chest, and she goes, "Take that home to your mother." And so my mom goes, "What's this?" And she opens up the note and says, "Oh, Mrs. McGilvery says that you have a nice voice, and she wants you to learn these 2 songs." And I'm looking at her. My mom says, "I've been working on the railroad, and Jesus loves me. Yes, I know." And my mother was a decent piano player, and we went to work on it like immediately.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so, which would end up me on stage in an auditorium, a church auditorium. It's filled with relatives and parents of the kids who are in this performance. I didn't even put two and two together. But I got up on stage, and another little boy was supposed to sing the songs with me, and he froze as soon as he saw the place was packed. And as soon as he saw the audience, he just clammed up. He just froze. And so I'm singing, I've been working on the railroad. Oh, and I would nudge him like, join me, join in on the song. And he just stood there frozen. Well, the audience thought it was adorable. And I'm like singing, and they're laughing. And they stood up and applauded, and I sang those two songs loud and clear.
How old were you at that time?
I don't know, kindergarten, what is that, 7 years old?
young.
Yeah. And when that happened, that validation, that was it. And it just worked out anyway. They were always pushing me up to sing little solo pieces. And eventually, in high school, I was in choir, I was in glee club, all the way through high school. And from high school, I was into the bars playing. And, and my folks always supported me and stuff. And my brother and sister, I mean, they had, my brother brought home Charlie Parker live at Macy Hall. The live concert with Charles Mingus and Dizzy Gillespie.
You were surrounded by a great family.
Yeah, great family, man. It was hip, And music, I'll put it this way, music was the one thing that we argued about. All the rest, you better dump the garbage, you better mow the lawn and stuff. But when it came to a discussion at home, it was about music. And let me put it this way. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I went on a long camping trip where you're hiking the Skyline Trail, And I came home, sat down for dinner, and, after you get back, and I remember this, I'll never forget it. The first thing is like, yeah, there's 2 new songs out. It's like they're giving me, so what's new? Well, there's 2 new songs. One is the Trogs singing Wild Thing, and the other one is Ray Charles doing Let's Go Get Stoned.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was, it was on the radio. And I remember when the Beatles came out with She's a Woman and she's real fine. She's real fine. And Day Tripper. I'm fumbling this up. But it was the one with the little feedback started.
Oh, yeah.
My brother brought home, Jimi Hendrix, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. And I remember with Brent Carnegie, Michael Gomez, and we're staring at a little transistor radio, and Jimi Hendrix is coming through the radio. We're going, wow,
What'd your parents think of rock and roll?
He was for it. I got a good story with that, too, if you don't mind. So Eugene, Oregon only gets two television stations, NBC and ABC. They don't get CBS like up here. But the Beatles are big now, and they're going to be on Ed Sullivan. And so we go over to the TV, and, Dad, can we see if we can get Ed Sullivan? And we, fool with the rabbit ears on the television and stuff, and we get CBS. And the Ed Sullivan Show, we sit down, and the Beatles came on and played their show. And during a commercial break, my sister was crying, and I thought, and she went upstairs. She was too embarrassed. And so it's just me and my sister, and there's a commercial. And I go, Dad, can I grow my hair long? And my father said, no, son, you may not. Like that, And I thought for a second, I went, Jesus wore his hair long. And without dropping a beat, my dad goes, yeah, look what they did to him. They crucified him. I just lowered my head and went, oh, God.
That was a quick comeback.
Set it right up, man. It's just like, so, music was it in the family. And it's all I know. So there's your answer.
Was there a harp player or that inspired you to pick up the harp?
My brother and sister again were bringing home Hoodoo Man Blues, but it was a Paul Butterfield record, that first one. Yeah. Again, I remember like looking at the cover of it, going, "Wow." I never thought of racism. I never thought of integration or whatever, but there was this band on the cover of it. with which now some of them are my friends, which is a blessing. Like Elvin Bishop's got a toothpick in his mouth. There's a guy from the black community with golden shoes on, and that's Sam Lay. And then Jerome Arnold is playing. That's Magic Sam's brother. I wouldn't know this stuff, but my world's about to open up, you know. So we had the Robert Johnson record. We had this, but it's Paul Butterfield. And I had a really mean guitar teacher because my dad bought me a Fender Mustang and an amplifier, and to learn. So I started taking guitar lessons, and my dad, was encouraging me. So he got me a Fender Mustang, and I go to the lesson, and the guy's name was Gary Beck, and he was a good jazz guitar player, but he would kick me in the shin if I didn't get the lesson right. So, I'm looking at he'd go, bang, watch me. He'd kick me, and it hurt. So I complained to my mom, and she brought home, check this out, my mother bought me a How to Play Blues Harmonica book and a harmonica. And it was by Tony Little Son Glover.
Oh,
you
yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
That was the only one. Now, that's my mother. And she knew I was listening to Paul Butterfield, and she knew my sister, I think, or Philip brought home Hoodoo Man Blues around the same time.
Junior Wells.
Yeah, Junior Wells and Buddy Guy. And my collection started with another guy who worked here. His name was Bill Rhodes. And Bill, you know Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Bill worked there for over 20 years.
Yeah, I grew up with him. And in high school, his little brother came to me and says, my brother wants to talk to you. And by this point, Bill Rhodes had graduated. So this is like a kid older than me. He's not a kid. He's like 19 years old. He lives across the street from Willamette High School. And his brother, Rick, goes, yeah, my brother, he's heard about that you play harp. Probably Rick told him. And he's inviting you over. So I went over to Bill Rhodes' house, and I kind of knew who he was, but he's graduated, right? I don't really know him, but he accepted me. Hey, Curtis, and we went upstairs to a room, and he goes like this. He goes like this. He goes, have you ever heard, what records do you have? I said, Hate to See You Go, Little Walter, and I have Sail On, Muddy Waters, and I have this. And he goes, do you have this record? And he would show me. And it was the best of Little Walter. So it was a whole new Little Walter I haven't heard.
Yeah.
And he goes, do you have this one? Do you have this record? It's like, my head just blew, And we became good friends. He was always very, very nice to me. He didn't see me as a punk kid. He was just somebody that he could, let me turn you on to this. And he turned me on. I would have found those people eventually later, but he put me on.
He took you there.
He took me there immediately, and he was extremely knowledgeable, and we were on the same path. Bill showed me a lot. Eventually, Bill Rhodes and I would start sending for records together. He figured it, if you do this, we could get 45s of Little Walter, 45s of Muddy Waters, or this and that. And we had it's a good part of my memory is him, And so I was lucky. I just kept finding the people, And then Robert Cray and Richard Cousins moved to Eugene, Oregon, and we just immediately gravitated towards each other.
Now, there was a great little blues scene happening in Eugene.
Yes, it was. There was. And a jazz scene.
And eventually, all you Eugene guys moved up here to Portland.
Had to, because the logging industry was shutting down, and a lot of jobs were out, and so a lot of clubs died with the jobs. People not. Eugene kind of had a slump. There was the first recession, and so it's like there's more clubs up here. There's more places to play and more opportunity. And so in 1978, we moved up here. My brother already lived up here, and
well, then Portland became this really great blues scene.
And it already had Brown Sugar and a few other things, right? Didn't it?
Yeah, Brown Sugar was here.
Yeah. Lloyd Jones, Brown Sugar, Paul DeLay. So I'm giving you the fast track. I don't want to bore the folks, but that's it. It was supposed to be,
Well, over the years, you've had the opportunity to play with some pretty amazing artists. People like John Lee Hooker,
Yes.
Steve Miller,
Yes.
Robert Cray.
Yes.
out of all,
Santana.
yeah,
Santana.
Santana. You were in the Santana band.
I was for a summer. Yeah, for a first leg of a tour.
That was a great tour. I saw that out at the horse race track here.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much. That wasn't my cup of tea, but you know, it looked good on the resume. But the band I made, the band he had, you know, we're still friends to this day. So
was there any learning experiences from all of that you took forward with you?
What to do and what not to do. You know, one of my closest friends was Richard Cousins, the bass player for Robert Cray for years. But we were like brothers. We lived together for a while. And it would be Richard and he is like a music freak, you know. Matter of fact, he'll start playing a record and he go, listen to this, Kurt. And he's playing, and I'm just getting it. Like, who's this, you know, or what's, and then no, you got to hear this, and they'll change and change again. You know, he's just a lot of energy. And he's a very talented and musical bass player and a musician. And I learned a lot from Richard, basically, you know. I mean, not like he's teaching me everything, but just little things, you know, like the bass and the relationship between the bass and the band. And, for instance, the bass guitar has to be tuned to the bass drum. Those kind of things, you know, kind of opened my mind a little bit. All of a sudden, he brings home Parliament, Funkadelic, and I just freaked for that. I was a big Zappa fan, but once I heard Parliament, I was like, this is
I saw you
like,
down here at the store talking to George.
George,
Clinton one day.
oh, that was a dream for me. Thank you. I think you set that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
George Clinton is one of my heroes, and Bootsy, but it was Richard that brought me the clones of Dr. Funkenstein. I freaked out for that, and it was Richard who turned me on to Prince. You know, have you heard this? You know, I don't know if you can, but Richard was playing this song, and it was called "I'll Jack You Off" by Prince, and I went out and bought what I could find, and once I'm into something, I want to know the history, and I discovered Prince was a fan ever since, before 1999 came out. And it was Richard that would turn me on to some of this stuff.
Oh, that's
and then,
great.
of course, I have my other radar. I'm not taking any credit away from me, but yeah, Cousins opened up so did Robert, you know, and Robert Cray, for you folks out there, was fully realized even when I met him, which was I was 19 and he was 20. Richard was 19. And Richard and I would end up living together as a couple of bachelors and music freaks. We didn't own a television set. We just owned a stereo. And but Robert Cray was fully realized, sang just as good now as he did back then, sang just as good back then as he does now. And rarely made a mistake or whatever. He just was fully realized. And so the band that I was in, which had great musicians, was called the Nighthawks. And we were popular, and we hooked up with Robert Cray Band. And so we're all in this one clique together. The Nighthawks, Jim Cochran, Frank Speaker, Rich Kesey from the Kesey family, David Olson, and David D.K. Stewart, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we had a great band. And then we made friends with Robert Cray, Richard Cousins, Tom Murphy, and every once in a while Dover would be in the band. And Robert did have a harmonica player in the band named Rocky Mazanares, who was straight from New York City. And I don't know whatever happened to Rocky, but he kind of went off the scene. Where I'm getting to is eventually, you'll see where I'm going with this. We started doing gigs together. We found a guy who would become our agent. And then the University of Oregon Cultural Forum started, they would call me up and say, hey, can Otis Rush stay at your house? I'm like, what? Well, Otis Rush is playing at the University of Oregon, and he wants to not stay in a hotel. Can he stay with you? So this girl named Sue Norquist knew me. I didn't really know her, but she called me up and said, can Otis Rush stay at your house? Otis Rush is staying at my house.
That's going to be a pretty amazing thing.
It's like, so, I mean, it's like God's got a plan for me. So basically it is, you know, if you think about something and you're really into it, it kind of, you gravitate towards it or it comes towards you. I really believe that. And that's what was happening. And so I went and picked up Otis Rush at the bus depot, you know. And believe it or not, in Eugene, Oregon, he wasn't hard to miss. Because, you know, about 6'1", you know, a huge pompadour, lied and died and laid to the side. This long, long coat, his guitar. He's on the phone, probably getting a connection. I go, "Are you Mr. Otis Rush?" He turns around and goes, "Yeah." So here's another one. We would work together as a dual, as a big package show in our heads. So it's the Nighthawks and Robert Cray and Double Trouble, Triple Threat. And we worked at the Eugene Hotel in the ballroom there. And we're doing this to put a gig together. So we put up posters and stuff like that. Meanwhile, there's a movie being made in town that I don't know the name of it, and I don't even care because I don't have television. But Richard talked about it. He said, Robert's got a part in some movie that's being made here in Eugene. Oh, and that was about it for me. And then what it ended up to be is this guy comes up to me, and we're doing this show at the, you know, a few weeks after Richard said this, we're playing this gig as two bands together. And this guy comes up and yanks on my pant leg and says, Belushi wants to meet you. And I thought he sneezed or something. I'm like, what? Belushi wants to meet you. What's a Belushi? So I told him to, you know, I didn't put it nicely. I told him to leave. And he wanders back and goes, Belushi wants to meet you. I said, I'm in the middle of a song. I'm in the middle of a freaking song, you know, what the, you know. And I knew who the guy was. So when I get off the stage, he whips me around and he goes like this, John Belushi. Because he thinks that I know who this guy is, because he thinks I'm into Saturday Night Live. Well, I got to tell you guys, I never saw Saturday Night Live until years after meeting John, about at least a year after meeting John, you know. And so he goes, John Belushi. I go, okay, and I shake his hand. I go like, hi, what's up with you? Hello. And he goes, you remind me of a friend of mine. His name is Dan Aykroyd. He plays harmonica, too. And my first thought was, who gives a poop? You know, I don't care. It's a harmonica for isn't everybody plays harmonica. Every hippie in the audience is playing harmonica, so I don't really care. And I kind of go, oh, yeah. And he goes, well, I'm with the movie that's in town. Bing. Oh, Robert's in that movie. That was the first thing I said. I go, Robert's, I didn't even know what movie it is. He goes, yeah, I saw Robert today. He taught us how to dance. I'll never forget that. I go, yeah. And I'm thinking, well, we all used to dance. Robert Cray and Richard, we had these little, you know, moves. Yeah, we had these temptation dance steps. And so I kind of laughed and we talked a little bit. And he realizes, I think now, he realizes I'm not really that interested. And I don't know who in the hell he is. He knows it. And I go, oh, that's cool, whatever. And he goes, yeah, well, I got to fly from New York to Portland and then drive from Portland down here to Eugene to do this cursed movie I'm in, and we're working hard. Now, tomorrow night, this was a Saturday, I got to drive back to Portland, and fly all the way back to New York to do this show that I do that's kind of a variety show, he said, and something along those lines. Yeah. And he goes, you know, and then I have to go back and forth. It's really tough on me, but I'm really excited about this week. And he goes, because we're going to have Ray Charles.
Oh, my.
And this is the truth. I go, what? What? Because, yeah, we're going to have Ray Charles, man. Now, wait a minute. You got it. And he kind of sees like, nah, I've got him. So he kind of walks. I go, wait a minute. What do you, well, man, we got the show. We're going to do Ray Charles and stuff. I freak out. And I go, Ray Charles? Man, you got to ask him about Guitar Slim. And he goes, who's Guitar Slim? You don't know what Guitar Slim is? What, are you crazy? Guitar Slim had one of the biggest blues hits of all time called The Things I Used to Do. And he's the guy that ran the session. He plays piano on it. Have you ever heard him play alto saxophone? And Belushi goes, what? I go, yeah, he plays saxophone. It's on Ray Charles Live at Newport, 1958, Atlantic Records, and the song is called Hot Rod. And I just spill this out, and he goes, let's go smoke a joint. So we went up and smoked a joint. And we have a third part of our show to do. I remember being late back to get on stage. We sat up there and talked, and I gave him my number, but he somehow found it. And about 4 days later, he said, bring your records and come on over. And that's how that started.
Oh, wow.
You know. And you know what? D.K. Stewart actually has Belushi with us, with the Nighthawks on tape. I do too now, but D.K. had the foresight to tape it.
You were his blues educator.
I was his I was his muse. You know, you know, it's Dan Aykroyd was the blues freak, and he was trying to. Belushi told me this. He goes, "My partner Dan Aykroyd, I wouldn't meet him yet, but I will in the future here." And I won't go through the whole story, but he goes, "Yeah, my partner's been trying to get me into the blues and stuff. He really likes this blues called the Downchild Blues Band."
Out of Canada.
Right, in Canada. They're from Toronto, folks. And here it is. There are two members of that band that are brothers. So Aykroyd, the Blues Brothers. So,
yeah.
So two members of the Downchild Blues Band are brothers. And so Aykroyd was already thinking of a skit. The skit came out. Belushi called me up, said, "We're going to mention your name on Saturday night." By this point, I was in the Robert Cray Band because the Nighthawks didn't want to go on the road. And I joined. Richard Cousins says, "You should join me." And Robert was cool with that, I guess. Or, you know, they both were, yeah, man. So I joined up with Robert and Richard. And when Belushi called to say, "We're going to mention your name on Saturday Night Live," I said, "Well, I'm in the Robert Cray Band." And Belushi said, "I'm not interested in him. I'm interested in you." But I go, "Well, you know, I'm in the Cray Band now." He goes, "Well, I'll see what I can do." And so if you can find it on YouTube, it's Paul Schaefer acting like Don Kirshner, and he's doing an imitation of John Kirshner, who was this real real stiff. He was a stiff host of the show called the Midnight, no, not the Midnight Special, but what was the name?
With Don
Yeah.
Don
In
Kirshner
concert.
Presents.
Yeah, Don Kirshner presents in concert. And so he does this, and he's real stiff. That's what I'm saying. And so Paul Schaefer's doing a good imitation of him. He says, "Now, thanks to Curtis Salgado and the Cray Band, here is the Blues Brothers." I was like, he didn't even mention her, you know. And but they come out and do their act. That got him a record deal, And then, you know, I could go on. We remained friends until his death. And we were in contact and stuff. And secondly, Judy Jacqueline and I are still friends. That's his wife. And I saw her 2 summers ago.
Oh, that's cool.
And Jim Belushi has a marijuana ranch down in, Judy Jacqueline has a sister here in Portland. You know, so, you know, she's got relatives here. And we don't, you know, I probably talk to Judy once a year.
That's great.
Yeah.
So your last 4 records have been on Alligator Records, one of the greatest blues labels that ever been around. What's it like to be in the legacy of artists that they have, like Coco Taylor, Charlie Musselwhite, Sun Seals, and one of my faves, Hound Dog Taylor?
Oh, yeah. Mine is Fenton Robinson.
Oh.
Yeah. That record.
Oh, Loan Me a Dime.
Yeah, that's a bad record.
Yeah.
That's a good record. I can't believe it. Sometimes I just go like, you know, let me tell you. Bruce Iglar in the 1970s came to Spokane, Washington, and checked out the Cray Band. And I remember we all took a hot tub together. We had our swimsuits on and stuff, but we were in Spokane at this guy had a nice big house, and he had a hot tub in a hot tub room, and we all talked about music, and he came and saw us and all this stuff. He passed on Robert. He passed on us. And so now here it is, you know, years later, and all of a sudden, this is how I got the deal, is I had a friend of mine, and he told Bruce Iglar, because I'd sent in my record, and I think he focused Bruce on the record, like, you should really hear this. And it was a soul record, you know. To me, it's all the same. It blends into each other. I don't really, you know, it gives the buyer a direction to go to. Country western, you know. We have, you know, folk music over there. Look, there's John Lennon over here's the punk section. But for me, my music is everything that's underneath the R&B umbrella. And so this guy, his name is Richard Sherman, Dick Sherman.
Yeah.
And Dick gave Bruce the record. Next thing I know, Bruce is literally flying to the East Coast to see us play, and it's in the middle of a hurricane practically. And he came anyhow, and he saw us, and we signed up. And all I can say is that I'm very lucky. You know, they're the right label for what I do,
Yeah,
and they're opening up.
great.
I mean, you know, I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but I didn't think they'd take this record, because this record is basically singer, songwriter, Americana. You know, it's a rock and roll. It's just Curtis Salgado songs. But everything I pick from is in this record store. You know, I mean, I grew up with all this music, so I wanna write songs. You know, you gotta. I'm into the whole aspect of show business and the business of crafting a song and the business of presenting a song and presenting how do you put on a show and what you do. There's so much more going on than people who are not in this. They just don't realize it. You know.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Well, let's talk about the new record.
Oh, good.
I saw that you pretty much used 3 different bands on this
Yeah.
record and recorded it at 3 different cities.
Yes, sir.
Well, how'd that come about?
Well, I wanted to make a rock and roll record of my kind of rock and roll, and just start from there. And so, and I thought I would use this particular group of people, and then I started writing songs, and I realized this group of people, and they're all my friends, and or they have the connection. And the whole thing that makes this record to me, and to any record you see, is the people who are playing the music. And for me, I know that I can go into and hand these guys a demo, and they're going to come together something pretty close, or maybe even better than what's in my head, you know. And there's no rules. There's no rules in songwriting. You just start building, and rebuild, tweak it, rebuild it, tweak it, and tweak it until it feels right to me. And I'm the one with the final word, and that's the truth. You got to learn how to let go. You know, somebody else might have another idea, and it's like, I see, okay, you know. You got to learn to say, you can't go my way or the highway. You learn a lot in this experience. So here it is. I picked 3 different rhythm sections. I picked 5 songs for the guys in Nashville, 4 songs for the guys, Kid Anderson and the boys, and then 4 songs for the guys down there with Johnny Lee Shell's studio. And I can't remember the name of the studio, but it's basically where the Phantom Blues Band. And I have to do a note right here: is the Phantom Blues Band is not a blues band. They're seasoned players who have played with everybody and their dog, plus they're studio guys, right? So these are studio session guys. But they're not just session men, they tour. Michael Finnegan is on everybody from Jimi Hendrix to Joe Cocker.
One of my
And
favorite
Bonnie
keyboard
Raitt.
players of
Yeah.
all time.
And then you have Jerry Jamont is on there. And Jerry Jamont is on, we could walk over to a Donny Hathaway record. You could walk over to a Roberta Flack. You could walk over to King Curtis doing Memphis Soul Stew. You could walk over to Aretha Franklin's second release called Aretha Now. He's on everybody's record. He's one of the finest studio, you know, he's with King Curtis's band, playing with Bernard Purdie and Cornell Dupree.
Oh, yeah,
and
that was
yeah. You know, so here he is. And, you know, Kid Anderson turned me on to him. So everybody on this, I'm able to bring these guys, here's the songs, here's the songs, here's the song. You make charts. So I called up Jimmy Pugh, who was on this, and he worked out some charts. And I had some charts made up for the Nashville boys and started doing it. And then I was on the Delbert McClinton cruise, and I saw, and I've been an admirer of his for a long time. His name is Wayne Toops, and he's flat out Cajun crazy. And he's an amazing squeeze box player. He's ferocious and has this great voice. And I asked if he would do a song with me. And I wrote this song called Truth Be Told on it. That's a Zydeco tune.
That's a great song.
Thank you. And because remember back with Otis Rush's story. Check this out. The same girl calls me up and goes, Clifton Chenier wants to stay. He needs a place to stay.
Oh my!
So Clifton Chenier stayed at my apartment for 5 days, and he cooked, and that was my first experience with Cajun food, with Louisiana food, So he wanted to stay at a place where there was a stove, and he didn't pay the band per diem, per diems for food and stuff. He'll take care of the band fully. So basically, he had a guy named Davis Petrie, who was Creole. This guy was this big guy with this, you could see the Native American in him and stuff. And I come up to him at Murphy's and me and Eugene, and I go, are you with the Clifton Chenier band? Stupid question. He goes, yeah, who are you? Well, you're staying at my apartment. And I didn't know what to say, and I said, do you know how to cook gumbo? And he took a cigar and goes, oh, baby, I'll cook you gumbo, make a bunch of fingers off. Yay! So he cooked every day for the band, red beans and rice, crawfish etouffee. He even made crawfish pie. He made gumbo. He made a big pot of the real deal, I was like, probably gained 30 pounds. But that's a wonderful, to go back to this, Cajun music is something I'm very much in. Zydeco music, I'm a big Zydeco freak. The history of Louisiana, the history of America. So that's what I'm doing. I just, I know I talk too much, but you get me going on music. I can't help it.
No, the record's like a musical stew.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and it really fits together. Even though it was recorded in 3 different cities.
Yeah.
It's a very cohesive record.
Yeah.
It just, you just keep listening to it.
Thank you.
I think all the fans are going to be really happy with this record.
I sure hope so.
So this was the first project you produced.
Yes. But let me tell you folks out there, the secret is when you got musicians that are a particular caliber, and this is behind a lot of the pop records or a lot of the stuff that we're all in together, you got somebody, these musicians that understand or whatever, there's half of it. And some of them going, Curtis, I think I'm going to change this to this chord. But they're asking me, is that cool? And to me, it's like, unless it's, yeah, I like that. Or maybe this. Or I'll say something like, let's break right there and just leave it space. Whatever. We just talk it through. And then it's off you go. I called up Kevin McKendry, who's this killer piano player in Nashville, works with Delbert McClinton. And as a matter of fact, a few months ago, he was doing a record with George Benson, who's doing Fats Domino songs. George Benson's come out with a Fats Domino record.
That's an interesting combination.
And do you have the record? Is it out? Did you?
No, I don't think it's out yet.
Okay, so call me when it comes out. So anyhow, Kevin is on it, and he's with the Delbert McClinton crew out of Nashville. Those boys are incredible. So the bass player on one of the songs is John Hyatt's bass player, and then another one is Brian Setzer's bass player on the song "You're Gonna Miss My Sorry Ass." And so I just started writing songs, and the process that I write in is there's no rules. Once something starts going, it leads me in a direction, and it will remind me of somebody. And maybe I don't want to go in that direction, but if it reminds me of something, I'll kind of lean in that direction. So I'm not copying anybody. I am, I'm listening to the flavor of it and then going with it. And I'll give you an example. There's a girl in Tigard, and she is a prodigy, and her name is Jackie McCloud. And she's just this young girl. She's probably late 20s now. But I saw her play. I said, let's write. This girl plays with the Vienna Boys Choir in Vienna, right? And she is masterful, can read anything. She's just this string of consciousness. She can just go. So I get together with her, and she goes, hey, and she starts playing, and immediately it reminded me of Alan Toussaint. I go, have you ever heard? And she's never heard it. Have you ever heard of Alan Toussaint? She goes, no. And she's playing. I go, that's what this kind of got this New Orleans kind of Jelly Roll Morton feel, And I said, let's record it. It's still on my phone. It's still on my phone. I could play you the original. So that's how "Oh for the Cry I" started. And then there's a ballad on there called "Always Say I Love You at the End of Your Goodbyes." And that's a touching song, basically about, you know, if you got a friend or somebody, a relative, and what if you get in an argument and then that person, you don't see them for a week and they pass away. You know, you need to tell the people that are close that you love them, even if you're mad at them, you know, because you don't know. And that happened to me. I won't go into it, but it was just like, always say I love you at the end of your goodbyes, because if you don't, you're gonna. I wish I would have said goodbye to him, man. Our last words were negative, or our last, Jesus, I never said goodbye, whatever. We just, you know.
Yeah, a lot of people have regrets over that.
Yeah, they sure do. So, so I wrote this song, David Duncan and I, and we just had these chords. And Jackie sat down. I knew what I was doing, and I said, Jackie, put the gospel touch on this. You know, can you make? And she just did it. And I still have that on my phone. She just sat down and just spilled it out, and I went, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, she even had repeated riffs in there that she did. She just heard it, and then just played it. Only it had this whole other thing going on.
Wow.
You know, more just gospel touches, chords, the way it's voiced, you know. And so I wrote "Oh for the Cry I," and I wrote "Always Say I Love You" with her, and with Michael Finnegan, and a few other friends that I do. I know who's going to get me where I need to go, and I couldn't do it without him. So, did I wander off again?
No.
Because I will do that.
That's giving everybody a taste of what they're going to hear in a couple weeks.
Well, I'm sorry if I did.
And by the way, if you pre-order Damage Control through Music Millennium, Curtis is going to sign a copy of it for you, and we'll ship it out for you.
That's right.
I can't tell you enough good things about this record, but you're going to like it.
You got any other questions? I love answering
long
questions. I love asking questions for a long time.
Oh, man. Let's see. Is there anybody you're listening to today?
Oh. You know, I always listen to old school stuff, but there's I like Billie Eilish. I think she's written this song called "My Future," which could be played nowadays, or you know. But she and her brother Phineas, I think, are excellent songwriters. I like crafting a song. I like people. I know all the songwriters. I've been with songwriters, and one thing people need to know is, you know, they'll go into these long things, what Lennon and McCartney meant and stuff. No, they had coffee, they sat down, and they start writing songs. And it's like a play in my head. I'll give you an example. For instance, Billie Eilish, you know, she's that song she's written called "My Future." It's just sophisticated, but it's pop. But it's also you could hear Miles Davis playing on it. You could hear, you know, it's like Miles Davis playing on, you know, what's the song by the one pop artist he did? Can't think of it right now. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. What was that chick's name?
Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper. I love her. So anyhow, yeah. But these songs are sophisticated. The chord changes and stuff, all of that stuff, and the way and the instrumentation that they use and how they put it together, it's happening, man. You know, the bad guy. I'm the bad guy. That's a killer tune. She's got a couple of other ballads and songs. I think she's really cool. I think she's beating. It's not that it's a competition, but she's something that's, you know, there was that sorry, ladies, that girl named Lorde, whatever, and she did.
Lorde is she's pretty talented.
She's very talented. But what's, you know, she's something just really sharp, intelligent.
And it's amazing in both of those cases. They're very young women.
Yeah.
You know, they're still in their teens writing songs like that.
But you know what, man? Women have that sensibility. There's something. They're you know, there are. There's just a whole different ball game there. I have no problem writing with a woman because their point of view is going to take another angle that could be clever or just something you didn't think about and stuff. Great songwriting out there by women, you know, of course. So that's somebody I like right now. There's somebody else that I really like named J.D. McPherson, as you know.
You came down the store and saw him play up here.
I think that guy's the coolest thing since sliced bread. He did this record called Socks. It's a Christmas album. And my manager goes, you should have a Christmas album. I go, no, I don't want to, what, and do the same stuff? And then JD comes out with an entire all-original songs of Christmas songs.
It's one of the greatest Christmas records that's ever been made.
Yeah, it's true. And he's something else. There's a lot of cats out there. But you know, I'm looking for something else. You know, there's not a lot out there that impress me anymore because there's, you know,
you've heard a lot.
You know, yeah. I listen to everything.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of like this guy, Sergio Simpson, and
he's an interesting artist, and you know, he's not set in stone as what he does. You know, from record to record, he's making changes and going in different directions and stuff.
But you know, look, somebody I was interviewed the other day goes, so how come no harmonica? You're known as a harmonica person. And I said, well, you know, I should have said this. I think of myself as a singer and harmonica, but the songs didn't call for it. But it's human nature. If you play guitar and you're playing and you get better and better, you want the challenge. It's Mount Everest. So, secondly, if you keep playing the same stuff over and over again, the record companies or the people are going, it's the same old thing. And third is you want to see what you can do and where your wheelhouse is. So you always get around to an artist, well, he went there and now he's back doing the way we like he used to be, you know. But an artist has got to go experiment. And that's what it is.
And it's good to surprise your fans.
It's good to surprise your fans.
You want to keep them excited about it.
Right.
So they keep coming back.
Right. I hope so. You know, look, this is all I know how to do. You know, I don't. If I won the lottery, I would become a producer. You know, and get out there. But that's what I want to do: is produce records. I want to see somebody that's got talent, and either guide them in the right direction, go with him, or write songs or something.
Well, in the short term, we just want to see COVID get over so we can see you back out here playing live again.
I want to do the same thing. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. So
you got a band here at home.
Yes, I do, a very good one.
They are really great.
Yeah. Thank you. What else have you got? Yeah, that's kind of it, you know. The songs, I got to tell you one. My favorite is "You're Gonna Miss My Sorry Ass." That was the first song that I wrote for the record, and I got to shout this out. It's like I was standing on the end of a boat. So this will give you how a song works. I'm standing on the end of a blues cruise, and I'm looking out over the back end of the boat, and we're admiring the sunset. And there's these two people about 20 feet from me or less, and they're arguing. It's a couple, a married couple. And they're going, and you can hear go, well, I think this one. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I kind of go like this, and she's walking away. And so these two were in an argument, and he, with a cigarette in his hand and a cup and a glass in the other, goes, well, yeah, well, when I'm dead and gone, you're going to miss my sorry ass. And he yells that at her. And I rode around, pulled out my phone, and went, and wrote it down, you know, and then I thought, well, now I need a storyline. And so I thought of a couple of people who have been those people where you grow up in your life and they're the ones that put you in trouble, but somehow they pulled you out. Or, you know, you're hanging out with these people and next thing you know, the police show up, but somehow you got out by the skin of your teeth. And so I've got a couple. One guy was a guy named Rick Johns, and the other guy is DK Stewart, the keyboard player.
Yeah.
I thought of DK because we used to run around together, and he would get me in trouble and pull me out again. He would get me, and he's a wonderful person, a great player. And then there's this other guy that I grew up with, and Rick really got into the drugs. So so did I, but I pulled myself out. He never did. And one of the things that unfortunately Rick did, which is totally Rick, he's not a violent person, but he robbed a convenience store with a filthy syringe.
Oh.
And he said, I've got AIDS, and they sent him up the river and stuff. And, he did some time there. But then he got out, we reconnected, so that happened, but he passed away recently. And so that was what the song is, So then I put a story around it. And the story is like father, like son. My daddy was wild. He ran with bad men. He robbed a drugstore with a filthy syringe. He got a nickel and a nail in the state pen, and the warden said, you'll never last. But that wasn't true. The story instead, he did 15 years standing on his head, and parole came up fast. On his release, he turned to say, I enjoyed myself a vacation, say. But I made some new friends, and we had a lot of laughs. And then the chorus is, don't expect no apologies. I got none to give. I'll show you how to walk to the razor's edge and a chance to finally live. What's so bad about doing wrong and saying sorry won't change the past? Because if you look on back and you think of me, you're going to miss my sorry ass. Wow. And I'm very proud. You know who's on there is Brian Setzer's bass player. And Bonnie Raitt's, and what's his name? Bruce Hornsby, guitar player. His name is George Marnelli, and he's playing guitar on that. And then Kevin McHenry, and a guy named Jack Bruno on drums. And Jack Bruno was with Tina Turner from when Tina left Ike Turner to all the way to the end of her career.
Oh, wow.
He's been with her for a long time. So that's that rhythm section. It's killer. And that's who's on that song. That and Precious Time and Slow Down. And
that is my last question that I have
all
for
right,
you.
last question.
Okay, Slow Down is the only cover on the record.
Yes.
And
by accident. I didn't want to put it on, but they nailed it. We nailed it. I mean, we did it, bang, right there. And then I kept it.
What was the first version of the song you ever heard? Was it the Beatles? Was it Larry
Williams? It's Larry Williams.
Wow.
Yeah. My sister and brother, man. Yeah.
You were lucky.
I was lucky.
I didn't have any older brothers or sisters. Nobody was turning me on to this stuff, man.
The Beatles did the hell out of it,
They did.
They did. And I love those guys. It's funny, when I was a kid, it's the Beatles, and I'd listen to their record and stuff, and then I came back around, it's like, there's a lot more happening than, It was Richard Cousins that got me really into songwriting, so as the last thing, and I have no problem dropping Richard's name. Robert Cray Band, my band, the Stilettos, and Kenny G was playing downtown in Portland at the, what's the baseball field that's downtown Portland?
It became PGE Park, but it was the Beavers baseball stadium.
The Beavers baseball stadium. So we're doing a concert there. Again, Kenny G, Robert Cray, and me. I'm opening up. We kill it. We got the audience going. Robert follows us. Robert, I was thinking myself, and then Kenny G came out. And to me, I thought egotistically that I had the most powerful, energetic going show, And I kind of teased Richard Cousins. And I said, I think we kicked ass. And Robert goes, and Richard goes to me, yeah, you guys were strong, man. But one thing, Curtis, I said, well, he's like my brother. He goes, one thing, he goes, you guys, we did a set. The Robert Cray Band did a set of all original, 90 minutes of original. And you did 90 minutes of cover songs.
Yeah.
So Richard went, boop. And I was like, and from that point on, I swear to God, from that, I was like, I'm not going to hear that again, So I want to have my own original tunes. And with a little more thought into it, you start seeing So if you don't do it, you're an interpreter of songs. If you're doing your own songs and people catch on to it, that's far more rewarding. You know, it's like, I like your song, instead of, I like how you do, you know, so-and-so.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what this record is. That's what my last record is. I think I'm getting better as a songwriter, but man, the bar is high. You know, you got Billie Eilish, that's high. You know,
that is.
You know, and I'll just
gives you
keep
good
plugging away.
goals to shoot for, though.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's a different genre, but I don't care. I respect the people that do this, and this is all I know. This is it. This pays the rent.
Yeah.
You know. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. Everybody, again, the record comes out on the 26th of this month, Damage Control, and you're going to like it. So pick one up. Thanks for being with us today at Music Millennium.
Love you. Thank you.